I'm Nesma Shuba.
This is Nicole Kingston.
And I'm Lauren Dillard, and we've been reimagining the QR code. The first scannable code was invented in 1948 by Joseph Woodland. According to the podcast 99% Invisible, Woodland found himself drawing circles in the sand on a beach in Miami. At work, he was trying to come up with a simple way for a computer to recognize a product. Circles in the sand inspired his visual code in the shape of a bullseye. The patent for Woodland's invention was issued in 1952. For the 20 years between the invention of this code and the mass adoption of the UPC code, these codes would remain unused. The scanners and other equipment needed to implement the code were far too expensive for everyday use. As the price of scanning equipment dropped, chains of grocery stores began adopting disparate visual codes. Product manufacturers like Kellogg's and General Mills feared that each grocery chain would want their own scannable code. A committee of executives from around the industry was formed to choose a standard. By this time, Woodland's patent had expired and the committee was able to review submissions from more than a dozen technology companies. According to the New York Times, the committee favored a black and white design created by George Lauer of IBM. These vertical bars were inspired by the original bullseye design. After a bit of persuasion, the committee voted unanimously to adopt the IBM barcode, dubbed the Universal Product Code. Prior to 1974, grocery clerks were required to enter the ID number or price, often from memory, for every item in the store. UPC codes usually store 12 characters of information. According to the Raleigh News and Observer, by mid-1974, IBM had unveiled a unified scanning system, including a scanner, point-of-sale terminal, communications unit, and control unit. The first UPC was scanned in a Marsh supermarket store in Troy, Ohio. The UPC revolutionized the checkout process at grocery stores across the nation. There were other iterations of visually scannable codes through the years. That includes code 39 and 49, as pictured here, as well as code 128 and PostNet, which is used by the post office to this day. However, improvements to the codes were incremental in two ways. First, while smaller and smaller bars could be read by scanners, the barcode could still only be read in some orientations. The code would not scan properly upside down or sideways. Second, by shrinking and stacking the bars of the barcode, information capacity did increase. However, no discovery since the adoption of the UPC code has convinced grocers to make expensive updates to their scanning technology. But grocers, who still use UPC codes to this day, are not the only consumers of visually scannable codes. We recognize that other consumer-facing scanning technologies exist, such as NFC tags, magnetic strips, and card-based chips. However, for this presentation, we've opted to focus squarely on consumer use and adoption of visually scannable codes, specifically QR codes. The next industry-popular visually scannable code was the QR code. QR codes were developed in 1994 by Denso Wave, a subsidiary of Denso Corporation that developed optical sensors. Masahiro Hara, pictured here, and his team had heard that other developers were experimenting with scannable codes that could encode information along both the vertical and horizontal axis. Because of this use of both axes, the QR code is capable of coding 7,000 numerals and has the ability to embed character-based languages. The best improvement of all, the QR code could be read 10 times faster than other barcodes. Denso Wave was motivated to develop the next visually scannable code technology because then they would have a monopoly on selling scanners that could read those codes. Because the team at Denso Wave was in the business of selling optical scanners, they needed optical codes such as QR codes to achieve mass adoption so that they could sell more sensors and scanners. As such, they provided specifications for the creation of QR codes to anyone who asked. The specification is available to this day on their website, denso-adc.com. In short order, Toyota Motor Corporation adopted the QR code to manage their industry-leading production process, Kanban. As components moved around the factory floor, their Kanban cards would be scanned by optical sensors. Rather than pushing product down an assembly line, Kanban cards indicated which products should be created and pulled them out of the factories. This drastically increased productivity and has been a model for physical and digital production processes worldwide. Additionally, the QR code was adopted to track food and pharmaceutical products. The first case of mad cow disease in North America was reported in 1993. After hundreds of humans and over 1,000 cattle fell ill from the disease, the global supply chain required greater accuracy and accountability to keep customers safe. It wasn't until much later, when web-connected cell phones could be used for scanning, that QR codes were adopted for consumer use. Today, QR codes are used for inventory tracking, shipping, and online ticketing. And here's a bit more information on DensoWave's business model from Nicole.
Since DensoWave released the rights to the QR code to public domain, they do not actually make any revenue from QR usage. Rather, they benefit indirectly through the sale of automatic data capture readers. According to the DensoWave website, 28% of sales come from their Auto ID business. In examining the DensoWave site, the most common business uses for customers are manufacturing, warehouse, retail, medical, and service for events. Additionally, use type is listed as traceability, inventory management, data entry, and process management, among other industrial uses.
Conventional one-dimensional barcodes require mechanical scanning. A narrow beam of light is projected onto the code, and the reflected light beam can be interpreted by the scanner. QR codes can be digitally scanned, which means that they can be read by almost any cell phone camera. The DensoWave team was the first to insert graphics to indicate orientation. The team conducted an exhaustive survey of graphics contained in flyers, magazines, and cardboard boxes to choose a graphic that is truly unique. The nested squares in 3 of the 4 corners made it possible for DensoWave scanners to read the codes very quickly in any position and from many angles. Depending on the size of the QR code, other nested squares can be used as additional alignment points. These are used to correct for distortion when the code is bent or curved. Between each of the corner elements, there is a single row of alternating cells called the timing pattern. The timing pattern is used to help detect the position of each data cell within the code. The highlighted blue and green regions of the QR code represent version and format data. This information is read first during decoding, giving important information on how to read the code. The specification for the QR code requires that there is a small quiet area or margin outside of the code. This visual space makes it a bit easier to isolate the code's information from other information shown on packaging or advertising materials. Depending on the amount of information to be encoded, there are 40 versions of the QR code. The smallest and most easily read QR code is just 21 by 21 cells and can encode 10 to 25 characters. The largest and most difficult to read is 177 by 177 cells and can encode up to 4,296 characters. That's the equivalent of a very long paragraph of written text. According to QRstuff.com, simple QR codes must be at least 1 centimeter in size. As the distance between the code and the camera increases, the size of the code must increase as well. The ratio of scan distance to QR code size is 10 to 1. That means a 1-inch QR code will have an effective scan distance of 10 inches. A QR code on a billboard that is 65 feet from the scanner would need to be 6.5 feet across. Like CDs, QR codes use a type of error correction called the Reed-Solomon code. This means that even if the QR code is dirty or damaged, it can still be read successfully. To keep the QR code small and readable, it is recommended to use the lowest level of error correction needed. In factories or other dirty, dusty environments, the highest level of correction, level H or 30% correction, is recommended. But in a clean grocery store or office environment, level L or 7% correction will suffice. According to DensoWave, level M or 15% correction is most frequently selected.
QR codes are an effective means for connecting analog objects or traditional media to the digital world. In the U.S., QR codes are primarily used by consumers for the consumption of content or requests for additional information. The scan-and-go style method is well suited for mobile devices. The value in QR codes for brands and marketers is their ability to integrate traditional and interactive media, engaging mobile users with a product or content. The key here is that consumers are the ones initiating the communication and engagement, versus an intrusive advertisement. By placing QR codes on a print ad or product, marketers can direct users to a website or video to receive more information. QR codes are also an effective way for consumers to immediately download a coupon or discount offer. QR codes are also widely used in outdoor advertising. In Japan, a popular comic book publisher placed QR codes in the subway station of a popular shopping district and a high-traffic destination for young consumers. Each code directed users to a mobile site where users could view comics optimized for the small screen. QR codes also offer the advantage of bypassing internet portals and search engines. In 2006, for example, the Tokyo Metro placed QR codes on bus stop signage where riders could scan to instantly obtain a schedule, as well as up-to-date information about if the bus was running and its current location. QR codes are also commonly used for information and services. They work extremely well for one-off consumer-to-business interactions where the flow of information is directed or initiated by the consumer. QR codes have been successfully implemented as mobile boarding passes or alternate payment methods, where a code is built directly into an app with a clear purpose or utility for the user. QR codes have experienced significant success in China, particularly through WeChat, where each account, including those owned by businesses, comes with its own QR code. By pulling up the code or scanner, users can add contacts, make or receive payments, and pull up web links instantly. However, this has yet to become as common in the US. For all of the potential strengths of and opportunities for QR codes, in reality, there is a general lack of understanding about its use and benefits from the consumer perspective. In terms of interaction, there are many limitations, as QR codes are typically not executed to intuitively align with consumer behavior. For starters, the QR code experience is rarely simple. Although most mobile devices include a preloaded version of a code reader, for example, Apple's Reader is built into the Passbook, most consumers are still unsure which app to use to read a QR code. There are over 100 QR readers in the iPhone App Store, but downloading, then opening an app, holding a camera up to a QR code, and taking a picture with a steady hand is not intuitive for most consumers. QR code destinations have typically been poorly executed by marketers, as more often than not, they are simply mobile or social versions of a television creative or advertisement. Research shows that over 80% of consumers conduct online research and have already made some type of purchase decision before they enter a store. The consumer journey is drastically different today versus the traditional path-to-purchase funnel. Consumers are constantly interacting with brands and services throughout the process. Therefore, once in a store, they are likely not inclined to pull up an app, scan a QR code, and wait for a mobile site to load just to obtain more information.
When it comes to analysing QR code engagement, usage can be divided twofold. Firstly, by looking at the number of QR codes created, and secondly, by looking at the number of QR codes scanned. The bar chart here, for example, shows data taken from qrstuff.com over 3 consecutive months in 2014, with the number and data types of QR codes created on the left and those scanned on the right. It's interesting to note that the volume and data types created does not necessarily correspond to the volume and data types scanned. The number of app download codes on the left amounts to only 2.4% of the QR codes created by qrstuff.com's global users, and yet it accounts for 20.9% of total scan events recorded as seen on the right. This information could explain which data types are more popular than others, but it should be noted that QR code placement also plays a role in the volume uptake of various data types. For instance, contact detail codes on business cards will inevitably get less scans than a website URL code in a magazine. The pie chart here shows this well. So although delineating the specific influences on QR code usage is not yet a perfect science, what this information definitely teaches us is that the truest measure of QR code success is not tied into overall use, but to targeted use, more of which we will discuss in our recommendations later on. As differences in data types may affect the statistical usage of QR codes, so too do perception and actualization differ according to different audiences, marked by geographical and cultural divisions. This in turn plays a role in QR code adoption. As such, it's important to compare the statistics in QR usage within both the US and abroad. A ComScore study found that 6.4% of the total mobile audience in America scanned a QR code in 2011. Furthermore, the number of codes scanned is higher in certain states than others. As evidenced in this map, California and Texas register the highest number of scans in the country. So as consumer demographics change across the states, so too does the usage of QR codes. This leads us to question, just which consumer demographic is more inclined to scan a QR code? According to uqr.me, this is men between the ages of 25 to 35, while ComScore places this age group even younger at 18 to 34. According to their affinity interest, 7.76% of these men could be classified as technophiles, followed closely by movie lovers. This demographic also has a high household income of $100,000 or higher. Again, this information proves useful as it allows media companies or content creators to ascertain how and where to implement QR codes for the highest chance of success in that marketing medium. How does this compare to the rest of the world? Within the bigger picture, the US has a relatively low QR engagement rate. Many technology experts actually refer to this low engagement rate as a QR code failure in the West, with TechCrunch labeling QR codes as a laughingstock in 2015, while Wired referred to them as lame in 2016. China, on the other hand, has a high engagement and rapid adoption rate. One reason for this could be that as of 2014, the number of China's online users was more than double the entire US population, and 80% of these online users use smartphones or tablets to connect. Another reason would be the widespread usage of WeChat, a social media communications app, which includes embedded QR code software. One of the key uses of QR code through WeChat is the ability for users to seamlessly migrate from mobile to web browsers on laptops, a functionality that many other apps or software, such as Dropbox, would certainly benefit from. This functionality plays into the all-important perceived ease of use that facilitates new technology adoption success and which is one of our key recommendations for QR. As of 2015, the number of registered WeChat accounts amounted to 1.1 billion, with 846 million monthly active users as of November 2016. For each of these accounts and users, there is a corresponding QR code reader, ready to be used at the touch of a screen and without having to search for the reader or migrate from the user's comfort zone. This inevitably means that media makers and marketers use QR code considerably more in China than in the US. China's online-to-offline market, referred to as O2O, is booming. It's characterized by anything digital that promotes consumer shopping offline, or can be defined as the business of converting online behavior into sales in real life. QR code is a natural bridge in O2O industries, further establishing its importance and prevalence throughout China. QR codes are also popular in Japan and Korea, with similarities to China being the advanced and highly connected technophile consumer demographic. Another important similarity is that these three countries use written languages that comprise symbols, and as such, typing in website URLs using Latin alphabet has always been less than favourable in the region and nowhere near as intuitive as it is in the West. It's an added bonus perhaps that QR codes are visually comparable to the symbols used in written Asian languages.
One of the most important changes that QR codes need to undergo to achieve popularity and mass adoption in the US is to increase perceived ease of use. With thousands of different technologies and apps available, if QR codes are not accessible and easy to use, they will never reach peak productivity. New technology needs to be perceived as useful in order to be assimilated into consumers' daily routines. QR codes should be easy to scan with no guesswork on the part of the consumer. This can be accomplished in a few different ways. First, pre-existing native QR readers should be more accessible, either through native integration with operating systems, phone cameras, or direct integration into popular apps. For example, the QR reader that currently comes installed on the iPhone is built into the Wallet app. While the wallet is great for services such as airline boarding passes, it may have little promise for mobile payment services. Just 13% of the estimated 680 million iPhone users have used Apple Pay, according to research firm Loop Ventures. As mentioned earlier, QR codes have experienced success in Asia, particularly as a result of WeChat and its 846 million monthly active users as of November 2016. With every app download comes a QR code to share and receive both content and information. An app as ubiquitous in the US, such as Facebook, would provide an immediate built-in user base, similar to WeChat. At a time when Foursquare was at the height of its popularity, 55% of smartphone users checked into a location via Foursquare or Facebook to receive a special deal or discount. Businesses can take advantage of this consumer behavior through the use of QR codes installed directly into apps such as Facebook. Facebook has made recent strides in its e-commerce efforts, particularly through its Messenger platform. The integration of QR codes into this platform would not only allow for ease of payment, but also provide the built-in user base, as Messenger recently reached the 1.2 billion monthly active user mark. Snapchat has implemented QR codes, making it easy for people to add each other on Snapchat without typing in usernames. Snapchat is an ideal platform for the growth of QR codes, especially since they consider themselves a camera company by nature. However, the user base still lags behind those of Facebook and Instagram, and is highly concentrated in the young 12 to 34 demographic. Other ways to increase the perceived ease of use for QR codes is careful consideration of placement. QR codes should never be placed in locations where users do not have cell service, or where they might need to be scanned either from a moving vehicle or on a moving vehicle, such as a bus or a billboard. Rather, marketers should consider strategic point of purchase locations, where users can scan to receive price comparisons, consumer reviews, or coupons. This would allow brands to leverage a consumer satisfaction or lowest price claim. Additionally, it could assist in money-back guarantees, sweepstakes, or discount promotions, where users scan a QR code and have all the information required to take a particular action.
In reimagining use of the QR code to increase its success, we also recommend adding a value incentive for users. This could be a giveaway, a coupon, a game, a song, or anything else that provides value and incentivizes users to scan these codes. In China, QR codes are statistically most scanned for these very purposes and data types. 42% of the 9 million average QR code scans per month are made to access promotions, coupons, rewards, and for redeeming tickets. As this statistic shows, consumers are inevitably more inclined to adopt scanning QR codes when it forms part of a perceived benefit to them. In implementing this tactic, we also suggest very clearly signaling to users what the benefit or incentive for the QR code is. Too often in the past, QR codes were plonked onto advertisements, such as direct mail pieces, without specifying why users should even scan them. This image at the center shows a product package QR code with no indication of where it would lead the user when scanned or what purpose it serves. Why would anyone be motivated to take the action of scanning it? If there is a good incentive for scanning a QR code as we suggest, it's surely worth telling consumers about, and only in this way can you even attempt to make consumers proactive and engage with your brand. For brands and marketers, delivering on these suggestions and making them work means really understanding what the value propositions are for their specific audience. Targeted QR codes are the key here, which means that businesses must measure and adapt their campaigns on a journey towards success. This involves using market research and consumer data in strategic ways in order to determine exactly what their key demographic responds to or what their key interests are. This may then involve calculated experimentation with QR codes to see what works and what doesn't, before then honing in on how QR best fits their business and marketing goals. This trial and error approach will ensure that QR codes will better serve not only businesses, but users too.
After scanning a QR code, users are often directed to static landing pages or other slow-to-load content on the web. It's not a great experience, and it doesn't encourage users to try again with the next QR code they see. Beyond making it easier to utilize QR codes and delivering a tangible benefit, we recommend that QR codes deliver impressive, engaging experiences. First, QR codes should be utilized to access services rather than content. In the United States and other English-speaking countries, it's relatively easy to type in a short URL. The burden of scanning and threat of malice from a QR code outweighs tapping in the characters of a web address. However, QR codes can deliver deep links and short snippets of actionable code in a way that other technologies cannot. Examples of this include automatically liking a Facebook page, connecting on LinkedIn, or following someone on Twitter, automatically applying a coupon to your account, automatically transferring cash, making a donation, or making a payment, just like texting a keyword to make a donation, automatically saving contact information to your mobile device. Next, content, if any, should be optimized for mobile. If you opt out of deep linking into a mobile app or other device-driven feature, the web page should be responsive or adaptive. All of the content, menus, and features of the site should be available on a mobile device. Graphics, videos, and other multimedia should be optimized to load quickly and use as little bandwidth as possible. According to mobile metrics provider Kissmetrics, 25% of users will abandon your site if they have to wait just 4 seconds. Lastly, QR codes should include any identifying visuals, like brand marks or colors, to make them human-readable as well as machine-readable. QR codes are incredibly robust visual tools. They can support the integration of graphics, colors, gradients, and patterns. Adding a social media logo, contact card icon, or other standard visual adds clarity. The user will have a clear expectation of what the QR code will do. Adding a custom graphic or company logo will make the QR code memorable and create a strong association between your brand and the following interaction. Thank you for your time.